The spilled coffee incident. Rain pounded against the skylights of the Wellington Grand Hotel as Prisha Mehta adjusted her borrowed uniform for the third time. The black vest was too large, the white shirt too stiff, and the bow tie threatened to choke her with every swallow. Remember these people paid $5,000 per plate? Her manager Joaquin whispered, straightening a tray of organic coffee in her hands. So smile like your job depends on it, because it does. Prisha nodded, mentally calculating the week's expenses. Her grandfather's medication had increased again, and the leak in their apartment ceiling wouldn't fix itself. But 25, with a civil engineering degree gathering dust under her bed. She hadn't imagined herself serving coffee to the environmental elite of Boston. The Rahman Foundation annual gala waits for no one, Joaquin clapped. Ushering the catering staff through the service doors, the ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and floating orchid arrangements. Clusters of designers, politicians, and entrepreneurs discussed carbon credits and sustainability portfolios while balancing champagne flutes. Prisha moved carefully between tables, offering coffee from her tray with practiced precision.
Oh.
Did you hear who's sitting at table 1?
Oh.
A server named Delia whispered as they refilled at the service station. Nasir Rahman himself. Years old and already revolutionized green architecture across 3 continents. Prisha had studied Raymond's innovations throughout college. His water conservation systems in drought-prone regions had inspired her thesis, a project that had earned her highest honors but couldn't secure her a job in the recession-struck industry. Table 1 wants coffee, Joaquin announced, gesturing toward the VIP section. Mehta, you're up. Heart thumping, Prisha navigated the crowded floor. Tray balanced carefully as she approached the central table. Nasir Rahman sat with his back to her, his charcoal suit contrasting with the white tablecloth as he leaned in conversation with the Massachusetts senator, just as Prisha reached the table's edge. A waiter rushing past bumped her elbow. The tray tilted. Coffee cup slid. Prisha lunged forward. But it was too late. Dark liquid cascaded directly onto Rahman's suit jacket and the senator's silk dress. The room fell silent, and someone tittered. The laughter spread like wildfire. Did she just on a Brioni suit, no less? Must be her first day. And last. Prisha's face burned as she frantically grabbed napkins. I'm so sorry. I didn't look at her shoes. A woman in diamonds stage whispered. Pale less clearance, I'd bet. And that handbag, another added. Is that duct tape holding the strap? Room blurred through Prisha's tears as she knelt, dabbing helplessly at the spreading stain. Her patched messenger bag, the one she'd reinforced with tape after the strap, broke last month, had slipped into view beneath her uniform jacket. That's enough. Nasir Rahman's voice cut through the chatter as he stood, coffee dripping from his sleeve. Rather than anger, his expression showed something unexpected concern. Are you all right? I'll pay for the cleaning, Prisha whispered. Mortified, Rahman shook his head, then surprised everyone by kneeling beside her to help gather the fallen cups. The gesture silenced the room. What's your name? He asked quietly. Prisha Mehta, sir? Something? Flickered in his eyes. Mehta... From Northeastern University. Prisha froze. Yes, but how did you... The rainwater recycling system for rural housing. Your design crossed my desk last year. His voice lowered. I've implemented variations of it in 3 countries. Before Prisha could respond, Joaquin appeared, profuse apologies spilling from his lips as he pulled her to her feet. "Mr. Rahman, I cannot express how sorry we are. She'll be dismissed immediately." "That won't be necessary," Rahman interrupted, rising to his full height. He turned to the table of still snickering guests. "Ms. Mehta is more valuable to this room than most of the people in it." The laughter died. Whispers began. Nasir Rahman handed Prisha his business card, coffee stains and all. "My office, tomorrow at 9. We have projects to discuss." As he turned away, Prisha heard one guest ask incredulously, "You're offering a job to the girl who ruined your suit?" Rahman's reply carried across the silent room. "I'm offering an opportunity to the engineer whose ideas have saved thousands of lives without recognition. Her worth isn't in her wallets, it's in her mind." The card trembled in Prisha's hand as she returned to the kitchen, her future suddenly as uncertain as it was bright. Unexpected recognition, the Rahman Development's headquarters occupied a gleaming tower of glass and reclaimed materials in downtown Boston. Prisha stood in the lobby, clutching her portfolio, a battered leather case she'd found at a thrift store during her sophomore year. Her one professional outfit, a navy pantsuit she'd altered herself, felt suddenly inadequate. Among the sleek professionals gliding through security, double quotes, Ms. Mehta, a poised woman with silver-streaked hair, approached. "I'm Eliza Washington, Mr. Rahman's chief of operations. You're expected upstairs." The elevator ascended 60 floors of sustainable innovation, each level showcasing a different Rahman project through interactive displays. Prisha's stomach knotted with each passing floor. Was this an elaborate joke? Some cruel atonement for the coffee incident? "You seem nervous," Eliza remarked as they exited into a minimalist reception area. "I ruined a $5,000 suit and embarrassed myself in front of half of Boston's elite," Prisha replied. "I'm not sure why I'm here." Liza's expression softened slightly. "Nasir doesn't make impulsive decisions. If he invited you, there's purpose behind it." She paused before a frosted glass door. "Though I will say, this is unusual even for him." The office beyond was unexpectedly modest, warm wood tones. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor, and walls lined with topographical models of landscapes. Nasir Rahman stood examining a 3D-printed prototype, his focus so complete, he didn't notice their entrance. "You're 9 o'clock, Nasir," Eliza announced, when he turned. Prisha was struck by how different he seemed from the polished figure at the gala. His sleeves were rolled to the elbows, exposing forearms marked with computational notes in blue ink. A day's growth of beard shadowed his jaw, and his eyes held the intensity of someone who'd been working since dawn. "Ms. Mehta, thank you for coming." He gestured to a chair opposite his desk. "Eliza, could you bring in the Rajasthan files?" When they were alone, Prisha cleared her throat. "Hey, Mr. Rahman, I want to apologize again for the coffee." "Forgotten?" He sat across from her, though I admit it made for an interesting evening. The senator's dress was apparently irreplaceable vintage Chanel. "She's still not speaking to me. That doesn't help my conscience. Perhaps this will." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were detailed implementation plans of water conservation systems, and at the core of each design were adaptations of Prisha's university thesis project. "You actually built these?" Her fingers traced the photographs of completed structures in Gujarat, Kenya, and northern Chile. "Your system was revolutionary in its simplicity. Low cost, minimal maintenance, constructed with locally available materials." His expression grew serious. 3 villages that had been abandoned due to drought are now thriving agricultural centers. Over 4,000 people have clean water access they didn't have before. Prisha's throat tightened. Her grandfather had always told her that true success was measured in lives improved, not dollars earned. She'd almost forgotten that in the struggle to make rent each month. "Why didn't anyone contact me?" she asked quietly. Nasir's expression clouded. "Your professor submitted the design as part of a collaborative university project. It took considerable effort to track down the original creator." He leaned forward. "When I saw your name tag last night, I couldn't believe the coincidence." The door opened as Eliza returned with another executive, a stern-faced man Prisha recognized from financial magazines. "Vernon, this is Prisha. Meta Nasir introduced. Ah, the coffee girl. Vernon's smile didn't reach his eyes. Nasir has been unusually enthusiastic about your arrival. Miss Meta is joining our development team, Nasir stated. Vernon's eyebrows rose. I wasn't aware we had an opening. We do now. Nasir's tone left no room for discussion. Working directly with me on the Bangladesh coastal project. Without an interview process? Without board approval? Vernon's voice lowered. Nasir, people are already talking after last night. Bringing her in like this only fuels speculation. What speculation? Prisha interjected. Vernon's gaze flicked dismissively over her. That Nasir's interest might be personal rather than professional. The implication hung heavy in the air. Prisha felt her cheeks burn with humiliation. My interest, Nasir replied coldly, is in talent. Something our firm seems increasingly willing to overlook in favor of pedigree. He turned to Prisha, Miss Meta, graduated top of her class from a respected engineering program. Her designs have already proven more effective than solutions developed by our entire R&D department. She has no industry experience, Vernon persisted. Neither did I, when my father took a chance on me. Nasir stood, effectively ending the conversation. Eliza will handle the paperwork. Ms. Meta starts tomorrow. After Vernon departed with barely concealed disapproval, Prisha found her voice. I don't want charity, Mr. Rahman. Good, because I'm not offering any. He crossed to a sprawling map of the Bangladesh coastline. What I'm offering is an opportunity to expand your water conservation system to protect communities from rising sea levels. 6-figure salary, full benefits, and proper attribution for your work. The sum he mentioned was more money than Prisha had ever imagined earning. Enough to move her grandfather to a ground-floor apartment, enough to finally pay off her student. Loans, why me? She asked. There must be hundreds of engineers with more experience. Nasir studied her for a long moment. When I was 24, I designed a solar collection system that industry experts called impractical. My father believed in me when no one else would. Sometimes, Ms. Meta, all brilliance needs is a single door held open. He extended his hand. Are you interested in walking through it? As their hands met, Prisha felt the weight of judgment she'd carry the whispers about how she'd gotten the position, the scrutiny her work would face. But stronger was the vision of villages transformed by her designs, of lives changed by ideas that had nearly been abandoned in a coffee shop. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Rahman. Outside the office, Eliza waited with employment forms and an access badge. Word of advice, she said quietly as they walked. Prove them wrong quickly. This building feeds on gossip, and you've just become the main course. Looking around at the curious glances and whispered conversations that followed her through the office, Prisha straightened her shoulders and clutched her portfolio tighter. I've been underestimated my entire life, Miss Washington. It's actually where I do my best work. Professional blossoming, the Bangladesh Coastal Resilience Project consumed Prisha's life for the next 3 months. What had begun as a modification of her water system evolved into a comprehensive approach to climate adaptation floating agriculture. Platforms, storm-resistant housing clusters, and natural barrier restoration using indigenous plants. Prisha's small desk in the corner of the engineering department gradually expanded as her influence grew. First came the additional monitor, then the 3D printer for rapid prototyping, and finally, a dedicated conference room where she led twice-weekly briefings with the implementation team. The local materials approach saved us $11 million in the UHE. First phase alone, she explained to department heads during her quarterly review. By training community members as construction specialists, we've created 300 jobs while cutting external labor costs by 60%. The presentation earned reluctant nods from even her harshest critics, including Vernon, who now addressed her by name instead of referring to her as Roman's charity project. Only in private moments did Prisha allow herself to acknowledge the toll of constant proving. Each morning began at 5. Each evening ended past 9. Her grandfather's complaints about her absence grew more frequent. Though the new ground-floor apartment with wheelchair accessibility had eased his physical struggles, you work like someone afraid the door will close behind you. Nasir remarked one evening as they reviewed coastal mapping data. The office had emptied hours ago, leaving them surrounded by projected simulations of rising sea levels. Isn't that what happens when doors open unexpectedly? They tend to close just as suddenly. Prisha rubbed her eyes, realizing she'd been staring at the same data set for nearly an hour. Not all doors. Nasir closed his laptop. Come on, we need perspective. He led her to the rooftop garden, a lush experimental space where Rahman Developments tested urban farming techniques. Boston's skyline glittered around them as they settled on a bench beside a plot of thriving vegetables. 3 years ago, this was a standard corporate roof hod, unused, reflective. Nasir gestured to the flourishing greenery. Now it produces 400 pounds of food monthly for local shelters, reduces our cooling costs by 30%, and serves as a prototype. 4 buildings across the city. It's beautiful, Prisha admitted, feeling herself relax for the first time in weeks. Change happens in unexpected spaces. He handed her a container. Dinner. You've skipped it 3 days running, according to the cafeteria staff. It's simple. Curry inside was still warm. Prisha hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite. You're monitoring my eating habits now? I'm observing a valuable team member working herself toward collapse. His tone softened. Your designs are revolutionary, Prisha, but you won't revolutionize anything if you burn out 6 months in. It was the first time he'd used her first name. The shift felt significant, though she couldn't articulate why. Growing up, my grandfather taught me that work is how you prove your worth. She set down her fork. When you have nothing else to offer the world, you offer your labor. When I was 10, he took me to a construction site where he was working as a day laborer. He pointed to the foreman and said, "That man will never believe you belong here. Work twice as hard to prove him wrong." Wise advice, Nasir said. But exhaustion isn't proof of worth, says the man whose car is still in the parking garage at 11 p.m. His laugh was unexpected, a warm sound that transformed his usually serious demeanor. Fair point. Perhaps we're both works in progress. As weeks passed, their late-night strategy sessions became a comfortable routine. Professional boundaries remained firmly in place, but something else grew alongside their working relationship. Mutual respect that evolved into genuine friendship. They discovered shared experiences despite their different backgrounds. Both had lost parents young. Both had been raised by grandparents who emphasized education as the path forward. Both felt the weight of expectations, his from family legacy, hers from the need to justify her unexpected opportunity. The Bangladesh project moved from design to implementation, with Prisha scheduled to oversee the first phase on-site. The night before her departure, the engineering team organized a modest celebration. Even Vernon raised a toast to her unexpectedly valuable contributions. Later, as she gathered her travel documents, Nasir appeared at her desk with a small package, a field kit, he explained as she unwrapped a high-end tablet with specialized environmental monitoring software. It's a prototype we've been developing. I thought you might put it to good use. This isn't even on the market yet. Neither was your potential when I found you serving coffee. His eyes held hers. I have a conference in Dhaka next month. Perhaps I could visit the project site while I'm there. Something in his voice made Prisha look up sharply. The question seemed to extend beyond professional courtesy. I think the team would appreciate that, she replied carefully, and their team leader. The question hung between them, the first acknowledgement of something neither had dared name. Before she could answer, Eliza appeared with urgent contract. Revisions, and the moment passed. On the flight to Bangladesh, Prisha found herself replaying their conversation, wondering if she'd imagined the shift in their dynamic. Professional success, she understood. Navigating the uncharted territory of personal connection with someone like Nasir Rahman was far more complex. When she arrived at the coastal village where their project was breaking ground, the theoretical became viscerally real. Families who had lost homes to rising waters welcomed her designs not as academic concepts, but as lifelines. Children showed her where the tide had claimed their school. Elders pointed to markers where entire neighborhoods had stood a decade earlier. That night, she sent Nasir a video of community members learning to construct the first floating platform. His response came minutes later. Now you see what I saw in your designs. not theory transformation. For the first time since the coffee incident, Prisha felt the full weight of her unexpected journey from serving the environmental elite to creating solutions alongside them. When Nasir's visit was confirmed for the following month, she found herself counting down the days with an anticipation that had nothing to do with professional advancement. Public scrutiny. The village of Shardanga transformed over 6 weeks of implementation. Floating agricultural platforms now dotted the bay where homes had once stood. Elevated pathways connected newly constructed storm-resistant housing clusters. Where devastation had threatened, resilience took root. Prisha moved through the community as both architect and student, teaching construction techniques while learning traditional methods of predicting tides and weather patterns.
Respect
She earned from village elders meant more than any corporate accolade. When Nasir's helicopter appeared on the horizon, Prisha was helping a group of children plant mangrove saplings along a reinforced coastline. She'd abandoned corporate attire weeks ago. Now she wore practical work clothes, her hair tied back with a local textile scarf. Her skin sun-darkened from daily field work. The children spotted the Rahman Development's logo first. They're excited, shouts drawing community members from their work. By the time Nasir disembarked, a welcoming committee had formed. Through the crowd, his eyes found hers immediately. The recognition in his gaze, appreciation for who she had become in this place, and an unexpected warmth through her. "Your reports didn't do this justice," he said, when they finally had a moment alone, surveying the transformed landscape. "This is beyond what we imagined." "It's what they imagined," Prisha corrected, nodding toward the village council who had adapted her designs to local needs. "I just provided the framework." That evening, the community hosted a celebration. Under stars unobscured by city lights, Nasir watched as Prisha conversed fluently with villagers in Bengali, a language she'd been studying nightly by lamplight. "You never mentioned you were learning the language," he noted as they walked the perimeter of the new structures during a lull in festivities. "It seemed necessary. How can I understand their needs if I can't understand their words?" The night air carried the scent of the sea and cooking fires. Round them, the project they'd created together had become a living, breathing reality. "I've been thinking," Nasir said slowly, "about expanding this approach. Not just isolated projects, but a comprehensive initiative across vulnerable coastal regions. It's a foundation specifically focused on community-led climate adaptation that would require significant resources. Resources I have. What I need is a partner who understands both the technical aspects and the human elements." He stopped walking, turning to face her directly. "Someone like you, Prisha." The proposition was professional, but the way he said her name wasn't. In the weeks apart, something had shifted for both of them. "I should return to Boston to complete my contract first," she began. "I'm not talking about a contract position," his voice lowered. "I'm talking about co-creating something permanent, something that could change thousands of lives." Before she could respond, the flash of a camera interrupted them. A journalist from a Dhaka newspaper had been invited to document the projects. Succession had captured what appeared to be an intimate moment between the billionaire developer and his employee. By morning, the image had spread beyond local media. By evening, it had reached Boston, accompanied by speculation about the nature of their relationship and questions about Prisha's qualifications. "Coffee Girl captures more than Raman's attention," Vernon read from his tablet during an emergency board meeting upon their return. "This is precisely what I warned about. The optics are disastrous. The optics of a successful implementation that came in under budget," Nasir countered. "Or of two colleagues discussing a foundation that could expand our humanitarian impact." "It's the optics of apparent favoritism," another board member interjected. "There are questions about Ms. Mehta's initial hiring, her rapid advancement, and now this apparent personal development." Prisha sat silently, the familiar weight of judgment pressing against her chest. Once again, her worth was being measured by perceptions rather than results. "Perhaps Ms. Mehta should consider a position with another firm," Vernon suggested, "for the sake of the company's reputation. If Prisha leaves, I leave." Nasir's voice was quiet but resolute. "And I take the Bangladesh initiative with me." The statement stunned the room into silence. "You would jeopardize your family's company over this situation?" Vernon finally asked. "I would prioritize innovation and integrity over outdated perceptions and prejudice." Nasir stood. "The board has a choice. Embrace the future we're creating, or remain trapped in outdated thinking while our competitors move forward." He extended his hand to Prisha. "Shall we give them time to consider?" In the privacy of his office, Prisha finally found her voice. "You shouldn't have done that." "Done what?" "Stated facts." "What?" "Threatened your position, your legacy." "Oh." She paced the room, agitated. "I never asked you to defend me." "I wasn't defending you. I was defending us, what we built together, what we could still build." He caught her hand, stopping her movement. "Unless I've misunderstood what's developing between us." The directness of his statement left no room for ambiguity. The professional and personal had collided, and they could no longer pretend otherwise. "We haven't even had dinner outside this office," Prisha said, attempting lightness. "Then let's change that." The media attention intensified as they began appearing together publicly. Critics questioned her qualifications. Supporters praised Raman Development's commitment to discovering overlooked talent. Her grandfather faced reporters outside his apartment. Raman's family issued terse statements about his personal choices. Through it all, they continued working, finalizing plans for what would become the Raman Mehta Foundation for Climate Resilience. Their first official date took place not at an exclusive restaurant, but at the community garden where her grandfather volunteered. Sharing simple, homemade food as 3 generations of stories intertwined. "They'll never fully accept me in your world," Prisha acknowledged one evening as they reviewed foundation documents. "Then we'll build a new world," Nasir replied simply, as though reshaping society was as straightforward as redesigning a building, one measured by contribution rather than convention. When the board ultimately voted to support their foundation, initiative reluctantly acknowledging its potential for both humanitarian impact and positive press, felt less like victory, and more like the first step on a longer journey. To proving them wrong, Nasir toasted privately after the announcement. Prisha smiled, clinking her glass against his. "To proving us right?" Legacy built together 1 year later. The Raman Mehta Foundation headquarters occupied the top floor of Raman Development's Boston Tower. What had begun as a theoretical initiative now employed 78 people across 9 countries, with 17 active climate resilience projects. Ranging from floating agriculture to storm-resistant infrastructure, the Coffee Girl narrative had gradually been replaced in the press by profiles of the resilience visionary, though Prisha still kept a framed copy of the original tabloid headline in her office as a reminder of how perceptions could change. "They're calling us for a final decision on the Jakarta proposal," Lisa announced, entering the conference room where Prisya was reviewing implementation data. "The local partners need confirmation by end of day. Nasar's flight landed an hour ago. He should be here for the call." Prisha checked her watch, though he mentioned stopping somewhere first. The somewhere became clear when Nasir arrived, carrying 2 familiar items, a coffee tray balanced carefully in one hand, and a patched messenger bagged her old one in the other. "Anniversary delivery," he explained with a smile that still made her heart skip after a year together. 1 year since you ruined my favorite suit, and you saved my career before it started," she finished, accepting the coffee with deliberate care. "Though I maintain that waiter bumped me, a fortunate collision either way." His expression grew serious as they settled into chairs overlooking the harbor. "I've been thinking about legacies recently. Is this about the board suggesting your cousin as CFO again? It's about what we're building, not just structures but systems that outlast us." He placed her old messenger bag on the table between them. "Do you remember what you carried in this the day we met?" "Student loan statements, grandfather's medical bills, my degree that no one would recognize." She touched the worn fabric, remembering the weight of those burdens. "I asked you to keep it as a reminder of where we started." He reached inside and withdrew a small box. "Now I'm asking if you'll consider where we might go next." The ring inside was not what convention might have expected from a man of his wealth, no. Ostentatious diamond, but a band of reclaimed materials with inlaid stones gathered from each major project they'd completed together. A composite of our work, she recognized immediately. Like us. A foundation stronger than its individual elements. He took her hand. Prisha, Meta, will you continue building with me as my partner in every sense? The journey from that humiliating moment at the gala to this quiet proposal seemed both impossible and inevitable. They had constructed something no one had imagined possible, professional respect that blossomed into personal devotion, innovations that transformed communities, and a partnership that defied every expectation. Yes, she said simply. Though, I expect the board will have opinions about this development too. The board approved the Jakarta project this morning, Eliza interrupted, entering with a tablet, and they've reviewed the proposal for your joint leadership structure going forward. Nasir raised an eyebrow. You knew about this? Mr. Rahman consulted me regarding the timing, Eliza admitted with a rare smile. I suggested the anniversary had symmetry. 3 months later, the wedding took place not in lavish surroundings, but in the rooftop garden where they'd first shared a meal. Prisha's grandfather, proudly using the walker he now needed only occasionally, escorted her between rows of vegetables and flowers grown by community members from each of their project sites. Vernon, now an unexpected ally after witnessing their success, had arranged for the ceremony to be live-streamed to project communities across 3 continents. Village elders in Bangladesh offered traditional blessings. Children from coastal Kenya performed songs they'd written about building new homes above rising waters. From mockery to matrimony, her grandfather whispered as he placed her hand in Nasir's. Though I always knew your mind would take you further than any subway ticket could. In her vows, Prisha spoke of foundations of structures built to withstand both natural disasters and human doubt. Nasir spoke of vision of seeing potential where others saw only limitations. At the reception, when a well-meaning guest asked how it felt to have risen from serving coffee to running a foundation, Prisha didn't take offense. The distance isn't as far as you might think, she replied, glancing at her husband across the room. Both require recognizing what people truly need rather than what they think they want. Later that evening, as Jakarta implementation plans shared table, space with wedding gifts, Nasir found Prisha examining the framed tabloid headline from a year earlier. Still bothers you? He asked, joining her. Actually, no. She set it aside. It reminds me that worthwhile paths rarely begin with approval. Speaking of paths, he handed her a folder containing architectural plans. A gift for your grandfather. Inside were designs for a community center to be built in the neighborhood where she'd grown up, combining senior housing, STEM education facilities, and urban agriculture. At its heart was a coffee shop designed as a vocational training center for engineering students working their way through school. The Meta Center for Sustainable Innovation, she read from the cover page. You never mentioned this project. Some things should remain surprising, he smiled. Even between partners who share everything else. As night fell over Boston, they stood together on the rooftop garden where their professional relationship had first begun to shift. Below them spread the city that had witnessed their journey. Before them stretched horizons neither had imagined when coffee had spilled one rainy evening. To the next chapter, Nasir said quietly. Prisha leaned against the man who had seen her worth when no one else would. The partner with whom she would build, not just buildings, but a future where others like her might find doors held open. Building something that lasts, she agreed as the lights of their city sparkled like possibilities waiting to be realized.